Hello, this is Andrine, the Jewish American Priestess. And I'm coming to you today, which is nearly the last day of Tishrei. We go into the month of Cheshvan tomorrow. And we had an annular eclipse yesterday, which is it's a solar eclipse where the moon goes in front of the sun. It's not a total eclipse, but it leaves this ring of fire around the sun. And although that ring of fire was obscured by clouds and fog where I was, I still got to see a glimpse of it just as the clouds parted. And it was amazing because then here was the earth and here was me and then the moon and then the sun, and having those bodies in alignment felt very grounding in some ways. But we're coming in to Mar Cheshvan now, and Mar Cheshvan is known as bitter Cheshvan. Mar means bitter, as in maror, which is the bitter herbs we eat during Passover. And also Miriam was known as bitter, which is to say she was born in Egypt during the bitter times of the Pharaoh. And some people call Cheshvan the month of bitterness because it comes after all of the holidays of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and then we have this month with nothing in it. There's one holiday at the very, very end that basically celebrates the end of the month. So we have this month that has no major holidays. Of course, there's always Shabbat, which is our solace in these times where we have a time to rest and come together. And today I'm going to do a reading that's speaking about bitterness. We're coming into this month of Mar Cheshvan because it is a lunar cycle. It corresponds to the constellation of Scorpio. And Scorpio is a challenging month. It has this connotation of being dark and even has a chance to sting, so that bitterness is there. And there's this affiliation with the death card in tarot, which is a transformation card. And that idea of death and rebirth that comes with the Scorpio season, where we have all these holidays celebrating the dead, the Day of the Dead, the All Hallows Eve. And we're going to do a reading today with the Hebrunes, but I'm going to use these oracle cards to guide us in. This is the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Oracle. So I'm just going to pull out 3 cards today. You'll get a chance to choose which one speaks to you, and then we'll go in and do some Hebrunes once we have chosen our card. So let's see which cards come out today. There's 1. There's number 2. Yep, and there's number 3. Let's take a look and see what cards we have to choose from today. Card number 1 is the Cosmic Egg. Wow. Okay. For card number 2, we have the Tarantula. And for card number 3, we have the Moth. I believe that's a Luna moth. So you take a moment to feel into the cards and determine which one is speaking to you today. And I'll put the timestamps down below, and then we'll look at each of the individual cards in your reading, and I will see you there. Hello, those of you who chose the Cosmic Egg today. This is a picture of your card. Let's take a look at it. We've got this egg that is coiled about by a snake. And the snake is, of course, this transformative animal that sheds its skin in order to grow. It smells with its tongue, which is very interesting because the month of Cheshvan is in the Sefer Yetzirah connected in some versions to the sense of smell. We've got the symbol for spirit at the top with the circle. And this idea of birth with an egg and rebirth with the snake. And this cosmic egg is it's the last card in this deck of the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Guides. So it's this completion, it's this idea of the harmony and the infinite within the finite. So it's this remedy for the fragmentation of modern life. And we are reminded of the cosmic contract that's written at the beginning. We hold on to life, and life holds on to us. And the journey is complete, but it does not end. So that's the beauty of the cosmic egg here. And, you know, we're in this month of Mar Cheshvan, which is bitterness on some level, but the bitterness, as we know, bitters are used to aid in digestion, and Cheshvan is connected to the stomach in the body. So the bitterness helps us to digest what is difficult in our life. So let's take a look at some Hebrunes to see what comes up today for you with regards to this cosmic egg and this time of bitterness and darkness and perceived death. Transformation. There goes one. There's a letter Hey. Oh, they're jumping out today. We have the Ein Sof. Perfect. And what else? Why are they bleeping? The letter Resh. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to set those over on the left. I wasn't sure, but I think based on how these landed, I'm going to pull out some Nordic runes as well. Let's take a set of those too. We've got the Thurisaz on the top. We have Yira in the center. And on the bottom, Hagalaz. Okay, wow, okay. All right, well, so starting on the Hebrew side, we have the letter Hey, and this is our current situation, which is the letter which begins the word Hineni, meaning here I am, and just that being present, remaining present through whatever is going on in our situation, really essential, really what's up right now. The letter Hey is the number 5 in Gematria, and so it has to do with the 5 fingers on the hand, so action in the world, action that we make happen in our bodies. It's the foundation of sight in the Sefer Yetzirah, so being able to see our way forward, having vision toward what we need to have vision toward. And it corresponds to the liver in the body. The liver, which is the organ that filters the blood and just determines what's toxic and what is not toxic right now in the body. It's got all of this connotation of being present, staying present, remaining with what is, acceptance on some level, showing up and saying, here I am, present and ready for service, regardless of what it looks like, regardless of where we are in the timeline, whether we feel like we are being wrapped up by this snake or whether we feel like we are the snake transforming. Whatever it is that we're called to show up for, we need to show up for in terms of the Hey, and to make action in the world, to use our hands to do what we need to do as we are directed by divinity. Being able to discern what is right and what is wrong, what is toxic, what is venomous, and what we can release. And that's what's happening right now. That top position is our current state. And on the right side, we have the letter Thurisaz. And Thurisaz is the doorway, or the giant, or the gateway. It's a thorn, and it represents something that's challenging. A challenge, but not an impossible challenge. It's a challenge that we need to face and move through right now. And so that is where we are right now in the world. We've got to show up and face whatever it is. That thorn is our challenge. Taking our trust in the divine. In the Nordic runes, of course, this is the god Thor. But it's about standing up to that giant, standing up to whatever challenge we are facing and walking through the doorway to get to the other side. And the doorways frequently are about transitions like death. Not always necessary to go through death to transition, but sometimes it feels like a death. The same way in Mar Cheshvan we have this symbolic death of the earth as the leaves fall off the trees in the northern hemisphere and the fields turn to stubble and the seeds go underground as if they are dead. And then they wait for a period of time and then they rise again in the spring. So that's where we are currently, in this showing up and remaining present and walking through the doorway or facing the challenge that we're here to face. The central position in the reading is the position of what is our challenge or fear in the situation. And I love this. On the left side we have the Ein Sof, which is the blank Hebrew, which represents the infinite. It's that circle at the top, spirit, the concept of divinity and everything in the universe being made up of that divinity, that blank space that existed before and will exist after time, the void, the unknown, the infinite. And Cheshvan, the month, is, it's related to, it's the second month after Rosh Hashanah. So we have Tishrei and then Rosh Hashanah. So it's the second month, but it's also the 8th month because we also start counting at Nisan. Interestingly, Hey corresponds to Nisan. And 8 is another number that represents the infinite because it's got that infinity loop that looks like, on its side, and 8 looks like an infinity symbol, which is often represented of the snake too, because it's a Ouroboros, which goes around and bites its own tail. So this infinite, this idea of the infinite, this Cheshvan, the 8 infinite that exists outside of time, is the challenge here. It's really hard to grasp that. It's huge. And the cosmic egg, this idea of endings and beginnings, is also really strong in this concept of the infinite as well. So not surprising that that's a challenge right now. On the right side also we have the symbol for Yira, which is cycles and seasons. It's harvest, but it's, it looks the same upside down and upside right. It's got that same feeling to it, that there are cycles and symbols that go around and come back to where they started again. Very, very similar. Things changing and transforming and appearing to be dead and then coming back alive. Harvest is a really joyful time. We're just coming through the harvest time of Sukkot. And then we have seeds and stubble and things appear to be dead. And then we start over again. So these ideas of cycles and the rewards that come with them, but then the nature of what appears to be death, what appears to be starting over again. So a challenge here with the idea of the infinite and the idea of things just going around and around in a circle. And they look like they're going in a circle, but in fact it's a spiral that is changing as we move through space and time at the same time, very much like this snake wrapping around the egg and spiraling up. And the final Hebrew on this reading on the left is the letter Resh, which is interesting because it is Rosh, meaning head, meaning new beginning, as in Rosh Chodesh or Rosh Hashanah. We have the head of a new thing coming. So as we have come to a completion, we start again. And the word Resh is right in the first word of Torah. We just rolled back the Torah to the beginning again this last week. So we have Bereshit in the beginning. It's got Resh right in it, the first word of Torah. So we have Bereshit, the beginning here, and a new seed being planted. Resh is the binary transformation of seed and barrenness. So as I have been saying, when we plant those seeds in the ground, and they appear to be dead and we don't know whether they're going to grow into anything, That's what's coming in the future, is some new seed, some new beginning is coming next, after this ending, after this completion, after this last card, this cosmic egg, which is a seed, has been planted, and then a new beginning starts. And on the Nordic runes side, we have the letter Hagalaz, and Hagalaz is the hailstorm. Hailstones coming down from above, and it's wildness and disruption and the unknown again. It's this chaos, this primordial chaos, the uncontrolled nature of the world. And that can be really frightening, but it can also represent a new beginning. Again, at the same time, we've got these cycles that are happening, and this snake which appears to be crushing the egg, and it's nature at its maybe most terrifying. But in the end, if we can become the nature, if we can become the storm, then we don't need to fear the storm. And that's sometimes what the new beginning looks like. When we have a new beginning, sometimes we need to embrace the change. We embrace the cycles. We go through the doorway with the challenge, and then we come out stronger and wilder, perhaps, to become that power, that pattern of chaos and nature. But it is just the thing that comes and goes like weather. So we have the hailstorm coming, and it is sometimes destructive, but it's always transitioning and transforming and changing. And I love that with the cosmic egg here, because again, the snake, which appears to be frightening, crushing the egg perhaps, where maybe it's protecting the egg. And that egg, which is full of color here, with the colors of the rainbow underneath. And the snake, which will shed its skin, and it's got its tongue out smelling for what's coming next. And as I said, Cheshvan is the month that corresponds in some versions of the Sefer Yetzirah to the sense of smell. So being able to sense things in a way that is unusual. So as we show up and face our challenges, even if we are frightened by the unknown, and the cyclical nature of things ending and beginning and ending again, we know a new beginning is coming. And even if it appears to be chaotic and wild, if we can embrace the chaos and the wildness and hang on for the ride, it will pass and transform again back to a new beginning at the next iteration. So for those of you who chose the cosmic egg, this has been your reading. If you enjoy these readings, please do like and subscribe to the channel. And I look forward to seeing you here next time. Chodesh Tov. Hello, those of you who chose the Tarantula today. Let's take a look at your card. You can see that it's got at the top the symbol for fire. And your tarantula kind of on a reddish background here. And the tarantula represents life at a crossroads. Something is coming to a head where you have to make a choice or a decision to claim your own life's purpose. It's about decisions being made and maybe breaking habits or addictions that you've had going on in your life that have been problematic for you, that now might be a time to veer away and find balance. Here's what it says about the tarantula. When in balance, it follows its intuition, and when out of balance, it hesitates and over-intellectualizes. So to bring things into balance, it might be useful to do some journaling daily to determine what it is that your intuitive side is telling you to do. That it is time for you to make some choices here in your life. So let's pull out some Hebrunes, and we're going to do Nordic runes today as well to see what Tarantula is trying to tell you about this current situation. And we were talking about bitterness today. You know, it's interesting that we have snakes and spiders and such to come up during the month of Cheshvan. because they are animals that represent transformation and change. At the top we have the letter Kuf. In the center we have the letter Beit. And then the bottom, where'd it go? Way up here, okay. And on the bottom we have the letter Vav. Okay. And let's take out our Nordic runes as well. At the top we have the letter Thorisaz. In the center we have the letter Gebo. And at the bottom we have the Weird. Okay, so on the left side, looking up at the top, this position is what is our current situation. We have the letter Kuf. And the letter Kuf is that letter which starts the word Kadosh, which means sacredness, that which is sacred. So trying to determine that which is sacred in your life, finding the sacredness in all things, even if they might be dark or seem bitter. It's also the letter that begins the word Kof, which means monkey. So in that sense it speaks to our animal nature. And how do we reconcile the concept of our being animals in the world at the same time as being one with the divine who is sacred in the world. And that's our current situation here. So Kuf is the first letter of the word Klipa, which means shards or shells. And that's where I see it showing up in terms of bitterness and brokenness. There's this story that when the divine was creating the universe, they contracted themselves down to one point, and that light of the divine was put into vessels, and those vessels couldn't hold the divine light, so they shattered into the world. That light went everywhere. And it is our job in the world to collect those sparks of light to bring divinity back together. But we run into the shattered, sharp parts also, which cause challenge in the world. So that's the challenge right here, is that coming to terms with and reconciling both that designation for service, those sparks of divinity in the world, and the shells and shards that we run into as we search for those pieces of the divine, and also balancing our animal self with our holy self, and recognizing they are one in the same way that the light and the shards are made of the same stuff, because everything is made up of divinity in the big picture. Kuf is also the letter that corresponds to the foundation of sleep in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation. So we have this idea of sleep, and as the world in the northern hemisphere goes into its dormant state, we have this idea of sleep. Even the spiders go kind of inside in the winter time. So something to keep in mind. On the Nordic rune side, we have the letter Thorisaz, and you can see it looks a little bit like a thorn. It is a thorn. It is the thorn or the giant or the gateway, like a doorway. So it's a challenge that one is running into, that one has to pass through, like one would pass through a door. And that's what's up right now, this challenge, this thorniness, this idea of passing through something really, really challenging right now. Though we need to figure out a way to get through that doorway, to face our challenge, to harness our holiness, our designation for service, in order to find the sacredness in the challenge even, and find our way through the doorway to the other side, whatever the other side looks like, and we can't know that right off the bat. In the center position, which is the position of the challenge or fear in our situation, we have the letter Beit. And Beit is a home or a house. I think of it as the body a lot of times, because we live in our bodies, no matter where we dwell in the world. So it's this idea of the soul dwelling. Where do we dwell? And Beit is also the letter that corresponds with the day of Shabbat. So maybe there's a challenge with rest. Like I said, sleep is the foundation of the letter Kuf. And so maybe we're having some difficulty sleeping. I know I am. So our challenge right now is, how do we feel at home in our bodies? How do we feel at home in our houses, in our households? How do we find our place in the world? And the letter Beit is the binary transformation of life and death. It's the first letter of Torah, which is Bereshit. And as you know, we rolled back the Torah last week to the beginning again. So this idea of endings and beginnings is up really high right now, because we just finished the Torah and started over again. And this is the first letter of Torah. So beginning again is hard. It's the second letter of the alphabet, but it's the first letter of Torah. So Bereshit, the second becomes first. And the day of Shabbat, rest. It's also the letter that I correspond with the matriarch Sarah. She is the wife of Abraham, and she welcomed guests into her home wherever she was, in her home, in her tent, as they traveled through the wilderness. And Sarah, in the month of Cheshvan, is the month that she dies in Torah. So the Torah portion is called the life of Sarah, but it is the month of her death. So she's here too. The challenges of mourning the matriarchs, mourning the mothers, and the mothers mourning their children as well, is here, all wrapped up in the Beit. Really, really, it's a hard time. It's a hard month. There's a lot of grief and bitterness going on right now in the world. On the right side, on the Nordic Runes side, we have the letter Gebo. And Gebo is about an exchange, giving and receiving. It is also, it's a gift, but it's also about setting up a partnership, sharing, hospitality, again, similar to the Beit. So hospitality and blessings, giving and receiving, personal relationships, and creating partnerships with others. So it does correspond to the Beit in that same way of hospitality. Is like you come to somebody's home and you give a gift, and they host you in the same way that Sarah hosted the guests that showed up at her home. So the challenge here is, how do we create partnership? How do we create exchange with others in the world? Where do we connect at that crossroads? And interestingly, because Tarantula does speak about crossroads, it looks a little bit like a crossroads here. We have this, again, that exchange. Where do we meet? Where do we meet with others? And how do we create appropriate partnership in our homes? In our homes, how do we invite others in a comfortable and satisfying way, and make a decision about who is safe in our lives, who is somebody we want to invite in. Sometimes people look scary, but they're not actually dangerous. Like Tarantula, I believe, are quite friendly. I'm not comfortable playing with them myself, but I know a lot of people who do. Yeah, our challenges are about our homes and our bodies, and coming up with appropriate give and take and exchanges in our lives with others. And down at the bottom on the Hebrunes side, we have the letter Vav. And interestingly, in my reading of the letter Vav, it corresponds to the rune of Gebo, because it's about connection. It's about connection with oneself. It's about connection with the divine. It's about connection with another. So it's this very tall letter that burrows into the ground like a root, but also reaches up toward the heavens. And this is our outcome position, or our advice for the situation. And it seems to be that it's saying connect. Connecting is going to be the thing that helps us find our way through the bitterness, finds our way through that challenge that we're experiencing with feeling comfortable in our homes and our bodies, is really connecting with others and connecting with the divine too, reaching up for connection with divinity, reaching in for connection with self, and reaching out for connection with others as well. And the Vav is the letter that is the number 6 in Gematria, so it speaks to all 6 directions: the north, south, east, west, above and below. Like we just shook the lulav during Sukkot in all 6 directions, asking for blessing in all directions and from all directions, and to bring the winter rains so that those seeds that we've planted under the earth that appear to be dead will sprout up like the Vav in the future, in the springtime when the sun warms the sky. And on the right side with the Nordic runes, we have the weird, and that is the unknown. It's that idea of fate, the infinite, and not knowing what's coming next. But since it's in the position of the future or the advice, it's like embrace the unknown. It's saying to really embrace the void and the idea of infinite possibility, that our connection with others opens us up to infinite possibility. Once we've passed through that doorway, that challenge, that whether we've negotiated with or slain the giant, and we can find connection and exchange with others, then we can move into a place of infinite possibility. And it can be a little bit unsettling to see a blank in a reading, but for me, I think it's that representation of the Ein Sof, that which without end, that which we can trust in, that in the end we all come back to the oneness of all. So as we are in this position at the crossroads, at this crossroads with the tarantula, having to make a choice here, I think what the message is for you is to embrace the sacred in all things, even if they appear to be frightening or if they appear to be dangerous. Embrace the sacred in them. Find your way through the doorway in the challenge, whatever it might be for you. And even if it's challenging with sleep right now, or finding your rest in your body, and finding the correct exchange of give and take with another, or connection with another, then in the big picture, if we do reach out to connect, and we do embrace the infinite, we will be able to make appropriate decisions and listen to our intuition and know how to move forward through the doorway, through the gateway, to honor our bodies, to honor our animal selves, to honor the ability to connect with others. And when we do that, we'll have that ability to discern what's the right place to go. So for those of you who chose Tarantula today, this has been your reading. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like my readings, please like and subscribe. And I'll look forward to seeing you here next time. Chodesh Tov. Hello, those of you who've chosen the Moth today. Let me show you your card. It's, of course, an air element because the moths have wings and they do fly. You can see she's flying toward the light, and I'm guessing that's the light of the moon because, as I said, I think it's a Luna moth. It looks very much like a Luna moth. Luna moth meaning moon moth. And they show up at night and they follow the path of light from the moon. And what moth represents in this deck is the idea of impulsiveness, making hasty decisions, but also being sort of wishful and flying toward the unknown. It's got this concept of being attracted to things that are shiny and new, or grass is always greener on the other side. But if it's in balance, there's this idea of this enthusiasm and whimsicality that comes with Moth here. If it's out of balance, there's some sort of jitteriness or idealization of others. And to bring it into balance, it might be good to finish a project that you've started in some way. So as we're looking at Moth this month for you, and with the theme of bitterness, maybe we haven't finished all the things that we wanted to finish in our world, and so we're feeling a little bitter about that and wanting to rush off to try something new without finishing up. So trying to find the infinite mystery in the thing that we are currently doing, or a project that we are facing, rather than leaving it and trying to find something better and brighter elsewhere might be a grounding element for that air idea of the Moth. And we're going to pull out some Hebrunes as well to get more information for you. So the Hebrew at the top of the reading is going to be the one of our current situation, and there it is. We have the letter Resh, interesting. In the center, what is our challenge or fear in the situation? And we have the letter Tav, very, very accurate. And then at the bottom is our outcome or advice to get through the situation. And we have the letter Hey, very nice. I'm going to pull out some Nordic runes as well today and put them on the right side, see how they all match up. So on the right side at the top we have the letter Soilo. In the center our challenge is the letter Hagalas. And on the bottom with our advice or outcome, we have the letter I was. Very nice. Okay. All right, so at the top of our reading on the left, we have the letter Resh. Resh is the letter that means head or a new beginning. So as I was saying with the moth, she is frequently the one who is trying to start something new and leaving other projects unfinished. So Resh is that letter that means new beginning. It's a seed or the head of a new thing, like is in Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Chodesh, as we are right now at Rosh Chodesh for Cheshvan. And Resh is also the letter that is the binary transformation of seed and barrenness. So it's planting seeds and not knowing whether they're going to come into fruition. Right now, as we're finishing up the month of Tishrei, that's the month of planting seeds. We're in this time of we're putting things under the ground and we don't know. Things have gone to seed and we don't know whether they're going to make it through the winter or they're appearing to be dead. We're putting seeds under the ground and we don't know whether they're going to come up or not. And that's the current state that we're in, is this idea of planting a seed. But Resh is also about humility. It's got a bent head like this, and it's bowed over. So our best bet is to have humility around this when we're planting the seeds. We just rolled the Torah back to the beginning, and our first word of Torah is Bereshit, and it's got the word Resh right in it because it means in the beginning. So we have a new beginning that's happening with the new year, but also with the new month and possibly with the new project, because the moth, like I said, is flighty and wants to start new projects all the time rather than finishing the ones that are already going. On the right side, in the Nordic runes side, we have Soilo, which is the source energy or sun. The sun which shines down upon all of us. And we're in this time of year where the sun has transitioned to, is shifting away from the northern hemisphere, and so it may be seeming to be darker, a little colder. The days are getting shorter. We also just had a lunar eclipse where, I say the solar eclipse, the annular eclipse, where the moon goes in front of the sun and leaves that ring of fire. So our source energy is up right now. We need to really lean into that sun before it disappears entirely, finding that energy, that source energy that is going to help us finish the things that we need to finish, give us that fire that is going to energize us toward getting things done, to have that inner strength to really pull ourselves in and getting our goals achieved. Soilo speaks about finishing our projects and victory and honor and having that power to move forward with the source energy. So that's what's up. A new beginning. We have this hope that we're going to finish it. We have the power, the source energy right now lighting us up and giving us the power to move forward, and that's just beautiful. But our challenge right now on the Hebrew side, we have the letter Tav, and Tav is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, so it's about finishing things. We're having a challenge finishing things, it's really clear. It's the last letter, it's a stamp It's the seal, it's the signature on the thing that says, this is finished, this is mine, I did this. Putting your signature on your piece of art or your piece of writing, whatever it is, being able to sign your name to it and say, I've finished. That's the challenge right now, that we're afraid to finish it, or we're afraid that we're not going to finish it. Some way or the other, there's an issue around completion here. Really interesting with regards to the meaning behind the moth and that inability to finish a thing. The letter Tav is related to the idea of judgment. Like, so we finish a project, especially an artistic endeavor or something creative, and we put it out in the world. There's the fear of judgment. People are going to judge what we've done and tell us whether it's good or bad or indifferent. And that's really, really hard to put ourselves out like that. And Tav, of course, is, because it is the final letter, has to do with death. So there's a fear of death. There's a fear of finishing the thing, because then it will be done and then we won't have this ability to ruminate on it or touch it up or just finish it a little bit more. Something really strong about that. There's a YouTuber named Zay Frank, who I watched for years, I still watch. And he talked years ago about you being on the brain crack, not wanting to finish your project so that you could just stay high on that one project and not let any new projects in. So I think about Tav with regards to not wanting to finish, being afraid of the end of a thing, not being able to finish it up. And it does correspond to the moon in the sky, so perfect for Luna Moth, that the letter Tav rules over the moon in the sky in the Sefer Yetzirah. So the moon, which cycles around and begins again and again. Right now we're in the new moon, which is the dark of the moon. And so there's a fear around darkness. There's a fear around the dark of the moon, or the beginning. So it's interesting because the dark of the moon is the beginning of the moon cycle. And it's the beginning of the month. So again, we've got the beginning here, but we've also got a fear around the moon and that cyclical nature that goes with it. And on the right side, we have Hagalaz. Hagalaz is about the hailstorm. It's about nature. It's about chaos. It's about things being out of your control. And similarly, when you release a project into the world, it is no longer in your control. So Hagalaz is about that wildness and the nature of that is out of your control. And that's a valid fear, that when you release something and finish it, it's no longer under your control. The Hagalaz speaks to storms and disruptive weather and the wrath of nature, these uncontrolled forces. So understandable that that's a fear right now in the completion of a thing. With regards to the moth, moths are so fragile. They're so delicate, and they're flying around out in the world, and the winds can just tear them to pieces, hailstorms in particular. So being a delicate soul, there may be some challenges and fears around that right now. And whether those are, real or in one's mind, the fear is valid. And it's important to breathe that in and then release it out into the world. Because again, if it's out of your control, it's out of your control. There's nothing you can do about it. So acceptance and trusting in source energy is going to be the thing that gets you through this challenge right now. And on the left side, in our position of completion, what is the outcome, and or what is our advice for the situation? We have the letter He. And the letter He is about presence. It's the first letter of the word Hineni, which means here I am, present and ready for service. So showing up and doing the work is the thing that will get you through it. This is the advice, this is the outcome. It's both. So when you show up to do the work, to complete the project that you need to complete, you will be honored and given appropriate instructions moving forward. Hineni means here I am, present and ready for service to the divine. So when you show up and say, here I am ready, you will receive instructions. It doesn't work the other way around a lot of the time. That when Abraham was told to go forth, he didn't get to know where he was going. It was just go and I'll show you on the way. And that's what it's saying the advice is here. Time to show up, say, I'm ready to do whatever I'm supposed to do, and then listen very carefully for instructions and continue listening as you move forward. Don't just get one instruction and stop. It means to completion. Go listen all the way through to completion. And fascinatingly, on the other side, as we look at the Nordic runes, we have the letter Iwaz. And Iwaz is about endurance. It's about the long haul. It's about making it through to the next iteration. It's stability. It's the U tree, perseverance, patience, and endurance. Strength and personal power. Really just slow, steady growth. So again, that's the advice and the promise. Take time, be patient, persevere, have your endurance, and out of that you will get the stability, and you will get more patience, and you will get strength and power. You'll grow slow but strong. And that's the advice and the promise here on this side. So, beautiful reading for those of you who chose the Luna Moth, the Moon Moth. You've got the beginning happening here, the power of the source energy coming in to help you. This fear or challenge around finishing the thing, that you may be battered or buffeted by the storms. And if that's the case, bring yourself back up to source here. If that's the case, know that your new beginning is just starting and that you need to bring it to ending. And the way to do that is to show up and be present for service to the divine, that making sure that what you're doing is in service to the divine and not some other reason. And when you do that, you will have that presence, you'll have that strength in order to hear the message about what to do next, and you'll be able to finish what you started. And you will again have that endurance and patience and slow growth and steadiness that brings you the strength under the light of the sun that will weather the storm, because this fragility of the moth can't weather the storm, but the yew tree can. So for those of you who chose Luna Moth today, this has been your reading. I hope that it's helpful to you. I find it's a beautiful reading today. I wish you a beautiful month in this time of moving into the darkness and getting through the bitterness of Mar Cheshvan. I hope that you like and subscribe to this channel, and I will look forward to seeing you here next time. Chodesh Tov.